Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is not your normal introduction because I have upgraded my Englishman on today's podcast. Gary Stryker, unfortunately, cannot make it due to familial commitments, so I have invited Mr. Nick Britten of the Road to World Cup 26 podcast. You may remember him from one of our earlier episodes. He's back. Nick, it's great to have you. Thank you for stepping in.
Very good afternoon or good morning or good evening or wherever you are.
Yeah, morning for me, afternoon for you. It's okay. We're very...
Well, it's evening now. It's 6:10.
Good point.
Yeah, it's a funny one. The thing about this World Cup, because I'm based in England, and the timings, you just lose all sense of time. You have no idea. I speak to lots of people around the world. You have no idea what time it is in their world compared to what time it is in ours. But it's very nice to be here. And sorry that Gary has been struck off, but here he is.
I mean, I gave him a red card for insubordination and dissent, but that's
quite right too.
That's just between the two of us. We don't have to get into that.
It's good to. It's a great moment, isn't it? It's a great moment because the group stages are done. We're getting into the meat of the competition. Many people have said to me, "Oh, this is for them. This is the start of it all. This is really where everybody gets down to business." And I think we've seen some teams come out of the traps. We've seen some teams gradually get better, and we've seen some teams which they've just not lived up to any kind of expectation. So it's been a very good, very, very good World Cup so far. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I think in some cases there was a lot of naysaying and a lot of negativity around the World Cup. As I will state, there is before every World Cup, there's usually always the, press, pundits, various things there's a lot of questions. And this isn't going to turn into a rant around FIFA and all that. I think I've made my opinions known on that before, but all the same, the ball was kicked and it all became about the football. And I think really that's ultimately what it's about. And despite the quote watering down of the competition by expanding it to more teams, 48 teams, I don't think the quality of the football's gone down. Would you agree?
It's been a great move. I think it's been a great move. And the main reason is because there's still jeopardy in those third group games. Whereas before, there were so many dead rubbers. There were so many boring games because two teams qualified, two teams out, and the third games were just an opportunity to give some of the squad players a bit of a kick around and a run about. But nearly every sort of third game has mattered. And when you look at how that has affected that individual table of third place teams over the course of the last few days, and I'll use Scotland as a great example, who started the kind of round of three, that round of last in a very positive position. They lost to Brazil, but still had 3 points, but then just watched as the results rolled in over those consecutive days, and they just dropped lower and lower and lower, then out. It brings great jeopardy. It's great. It's really good. I've really enjoyed this. And I've enjoyed watching new teams, and I've enjoyed watching how teams like Cape Verde and Curacao, for example, tackle the World Cup and play on this global stage. And so, no, it's been a good thing. It's been
and in the case of Cape Verde, have succeeded
unbelievably
on the grand stage. A true shock. Not even a dark horse. I mean, not even in the equine species. They weren't even under consideration.
They were not a horse of any kind.
No.
Outside of that beautiful little island of 530,000 people, nobody would have given them a hope.
No.
Nobody. But not only to qualify, but to qualify in second place. So qualify automatically and give themselves an absolute plum draw against Argentina. They deserve it. They deserve it. And I'm
fantastic.
Unbeaten as well. They didn't lose a game. So
that's right.
Well played.
That's right. Well played. And as we don't really have a true agenda here, we're just going to kind of bounce all over the place. I want to talk a little bit about 3 points because in the buildup, I know that Gary and I were talking about how, again, with this quote watering down, there were going to be some teams that snuck in on 3 points, maybe didn't deserve it, maybe didn't do that. And I found surprisingly that didn't happen. There were outside of Cape Verde and I believe Senegal. Those were the only two teams that qualified to 3 points. And of course, Cape Verde did it through placing second. And if they had not placed second, they would not have qualified, right? They would have been just below Senegal, I believe, on goal differential.
Yeah.
So,
no, correct.
So, I mean, still, they deserved it because they were unbeaten, and getting 3 draws, in my opinion, I think getting 3 draws is better than getting 1 win and 2 losses. If I'm gonna put these on scales, completely arbitrary scales, I'd say the team that gets 3 draws probably deserves it more than the team that just had 1 good game. Okay, fair, right? But
well, it's true, because obviously if you draw games, you're going to come out. If you have 3 draws, you're going to come out with a 0 goal difference, and that's the point. If you win 1 and lose 2, you better win the 1 with a lot of goals, because your goal difference in the 2 defeats is going to take a battering. And that is, talking of Scotland as a great example, that's exactly what happened.
mm-hmm.
That's exactly they managed 1 win, but it was a 1-0 win against Haiti, and then that got cancelled out by a 1-0 defeat against Morocco, and then they lost 3-0 going on 6-0, but it was only 3 to Brazil, and it was those 3 goals which did for them in the end.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely crazy. And you could sort of see it on their faces when they were playing. You just see that when that second and third goal went in, everybody just kind of dropped a little bit. And as heartbreaking as I think Scotland's long wait for disqualification happened, I feel even worse for Iran, who had
100%.
to endure it in a much shorter time, but in a much more, excruciating fashion. One, they thought they had gotten in with that last minute goal, only to have it taken away by offsides. And I recognize there was some controversy on that offsides call. And even I was even looking at the pictures going, what? Until I realized second to last defender, right? And the goalkeeper was up above the line. Anyway, that's another story.
You don't often see that. You don't often see that situation.
That's correct.
Therefore, offside was the right decision, but you don't often see offsides in that particular environment.
Yeah, and so not only was that just taken away, then the next day they had to watch. Then they had to watch the Algeria Austria match, which, by the way, what a way to end! What a match to end the group stage on. That was an absolute banger. You could do an entire podcast just on that match, the history behind it, and everything else,
And there was a suggestion in certain media courses that this might be a sort of West Germany. Was it 1974?
It was 1982, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
Spain, 1982, Giron, in the stadium of Giron.
Yeah, they both knew that a point would have been good enough for them both to qualify, so they'd just have a bit of a kick around the halfway line for 90 minutes, but it was nothing of the sort. And for Iran, and on 93 minutes, they were in. They were in the knockout stage on 93 minutes. In the 97th minute, they were out.
That's brutal. I mean, it's absolutely brutal.
It is brutal, and I feel for them because they've been treated appallingly. They have been treated absolutely appallingly.
100%.
And
yes.
And by FIFA particularly. I think they need to have a long, hard look at themselves after this. But they've not lost a game, Iran. They've drawn all 3, a bit like Cape Verde, finished second in their group and qualified automatically. Iran did exactly the same. They played 3, drew 3. Under the very, very difficult circumstances they were placed in, not being allowed to stay in the USA before or after games and having to commute to games to and from Mexico. So they did really well, and they deserved. I feel that I'm quite saddened that they got dumped out in the way that it happened, particularly.
I agree. It was they were treated appallingly and deserved better. Sadly, we will not be able to change that, and nor will FIFA give a rat's patootie about that. Right, the same way that FIFA did.
FIFA will be glad. No, I'd imagine FIFA will be glad.
Yeah,
I think the Iran problem's gone away now, so I think America will be glad, FIFA will be glad, and that's just a bit of a monkey off their back.
And to be fair, FIFA didn't care in 1982 when West Germany and Austria colluded to essentially fix a match and then knock Algeria out. And so that's what I think was so surprising. And somebody, I saw on some social media, there was a stretch in that game where apparently Algeria made 100 passes uncontested. Yes. In the second half, and over a 5-minute span, just passed the ball around, and somebody took that, sped it up, and then overlaid yakety sax on it.
Yeah,
which is the perfect use of that song. And then all of a sudden, they were like, "Oh, wait a minute, we can win this. And then boom, through 9 Austrian defenders concentrated in the center of the field, they found a way to get through, and then Austria responds by putting on this 6'6" monster of a player, right? And he just gets it. His first touch is the goal that equalizes and puts him through.
Yeah.
You cannot script this. You cannot script this. You know, by the way, the Welcome to Wrexham people are desperately trying, but hey, this is something that was completely unprecedented, unparalleled. And we're talking about goals here. So let's segue into just how many incredible goals have been scored. 212, if I'm not mistaken, just in the group phase.
Well, it's very rare. It's very rare at a World Cup that you have such a plethora of global superstar strikers all in one place at one time. You normally get one or two, and the focus is on those one or two players, and the race for the Golden Boot is normally that. This time round, you've got 7 or 8 world-class strikers, and they're all scoring goals, other than Ronaldo perhaps, but they're all scoring goals. So Messi's scoring goals, Vinicius is scoring goals, Kane's scoring goals, Haaland is scoring goals. There's more. There's about 6 or 7.
You've got Vinicius.
You've
got
Mbappe.
He's
been sensational. Mbappe, of course Mbappe.
Right, and then
Dembele's come to the party as well. So
yeah, he decided. He's like, wait a second, I can't let Kylian have I got the Ballon d'Or. Why am I not scoring? Oh, boom, problem solved.
Exactly that. Yeah. So 2 hat-tricks in 3 games by French players. So that's extraordinary. So yeah, and there are some absolutely cracking goals, but it's a joy to watch. It's a joy to watch, and the most joyous thing about it for me is watching Messi still do it. 39 years old now, still do it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking here, right, if Argentina don't go all the way, and France probably will, let's face it, they're going to be there or thereabouts.
Probably, yeah.
I think he's probably looking at the Cape Verde game and going, this is my chance to score 18 goals, shall we say, and secure the Golden Boot as much as he possibly can as a bit of an insurance policy for later on in the competition. So I'll be really interested to see how that game goes, because we kind of know what Cape Verde are going to do. We kind of know, of course,
and I think, and on the opposite end, I think you've got somebody like Vozinha who's like, all right, this young buck, I'm going to show him a thing or two about experience, right? So it's going to be the battle of this sort of ageless diminutive wonder versus this craggy old, wizened goalkeeper. I mean, he looks like he's been working on a boat for 20 years. Right?
Well, he probably has.
Mean, it probably has. Yeah, I'm sure that when he was playing in the Cypriot League, he probably moonlit as a fisherman. But yeah, still, it is. I think that does present an incredible opportunity for Messi to really etch his name in history books. And let's also not forget that Ronaldo did have his brief moment. He did score 2 goals and good goals.
He scored a couple of goals. I mean, he was absolutely wretched in the first game against DR Congo.
Absent in the third.
Exactly that. Yeah, he was wretched in the third. But in between, he got a couple of goals. But Portugal are doing themselves their own damage here. They're doing themselves their own damage, and if they're going to do anything in this World Cup, they need to sort out the Ronaldo issue.
They do. The game against Colombia was a very dull game, but not for Colombia's lack of trying. Colombia actually they took it seriously. They put some effort into it. I didn't get the feeling that Portugal was really trying all that hard. And really, if it wasn't for Rui Silva, who had a very good, exceptional game and sort of bringing the focus back to the goalkeepers, there was a period in the beginning of this tournament where goalkeepers were the thing. That was what everybody was talking about, these incredible goalkeeping things. Then the strikers took over. And then Rui Silva finally went, hey, we're still here. Thanks. We're not just missing shots, and kept his side in it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Ronaldo was a millstone around their neck, and I think if they had enough cojones to shrug him off, they would find themselves performing much better in this.
I think so, but I fear it's going to be too late. I think it's going to be too late because the fixtures, they've got a difficult game in the knockouts, and I don't fancy them. I don't fancy him for it at all.
Okay. So, interesting question. Who is the best of I think you may have already answered it, but, who is your top 2 of the teams that didn't make it? The top 2 eliminated teams, in your opinion?
Or the top 2 eliminated teams.
Yeah, like not just by statistics, but you felt that these were teams that probably in a, if had things gone a little differently. I think we can
Well,
both agree Iran is on that list because, we both talk about how we, for lots
yeah.
of different reasons, but who else out of the eliminated teams someone surprised you who said, "Hey, these guys did better than I thought"? Just curious.
Well, I'm going to flip it around slightly and say who are the eliminated teams who shouldn't have been eliminated, who and it was a
Okay,
big
that's also
surprise.
it's a perfectly good way to phrase it.
The real turkeys of the World Cup so far are Turkey,
Go
who
Good
who
one.
had an absolute stinker. I thought they might sort of top their group when I looked
I
at
did
this
too.
right at the outside.
I did too. Yeah.
There's an interesting story also brewing in South Korea where there's been an inquiry ordered by the South Korean president into their performance and particularly the appointment of the coach, who, in the all-important game which saw them eliminated, left Sun Min-hong on the bench, their greatest ever player, and he left him on the bench for 45 minutes. And that is a sackable offence. Well, it would be had the coach not already resigned in the wake of their elimination. But there's going to be a big inquiry there because South Korea, I thought, were going to be one of those teams that cause people problems. So
Agreed.
them going out's a big surprise. Turkey's overall performance was a really big surprise. So
Yeah,
I think those two teams are really under.
I you are a wise man, Mr. Britton, and I agree with you on that.
Thank you
Yes,
very much.
absolutely.
That's very kind. You can maybe tell Gary that when he finally returns.
I will make sure to do that. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I mean, other than Iran, I mean, I'm looking down. When I looked at the teams who finished bottom of the group, other than Turkey and perhaps Tunisia, they. But if you're going to sack your manager after one game, then you deserve
they had
everything's
no
coming
chance
to you.
after that. They had no
Yeah,
chance.
you deserve
Yeah.
everything's coming to you. I think all the teams that finished bottom of the group, we expected to finish bottom of the group. The
Yeah,
four
sure.
teams that didn't qualify out of third place, you would kind of expect that. I mean, Scotland. We talked about Scotland. They were disappointing, but I don't think they deserved anything better than that. And
Agreed. Yeah.
broadly, I think if you could pick your round of 32 teams, you could probably have predicted 80 to 90% of them at the start.
Yes,
And it's come
perhaps
to
in
pass.
different orders, but
Oh,
certainly,
yes, yeah.
certainly for advancement, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. No, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. I was personally disappointed in New Zealand. I thought they might have a chance, although I do want to say that Elijah Just, what a spark he was. You look at a team like New Zealand, you've got Chris Wood, who is their talisman, their icon, and I'm thinking, right, he is their Ronaldo. It's time to move on from Chris Wood and give these young players their chance, right? Because Elijah he got 3 goals. That's impressive for a Kiwi to score 3 goals in a World Cup. It's never happened before, I don't think. I'd have to go back and check, because if it did, it was by Chris Wood. But how fantastic to see young players like that suddenly come in and make a splash. By the way, he did himself huge favors, and also his team Motherwell in the Scottish Premiership favors, because his transfer value went way up.
Well, funnily enough, indeed. Funnily enough, we were talking about this on the Road to World Cup 26 podcast. This is the thing, because the World Cup is full of stories of players who come out of nowhere and make names for themselves and see their transfers go through the roof. And on that note, my team, Derby County, who have 2 players at this year's World Cup, weren't sure whether either of them were going to play. Sondre Langas, who did come on for Denmark the other day, and then
You mean Norway?
more importantly, Jakob Zetterstrom, who went as sort of third choice Sweden goalkeeper, but played in their last group game and played really, really well. So
Yes, he did.
we are hoping that he is going to keep his place for the game against France, because it'll add loads to his value.
That's very true.
I mean, you don't want, as a goalkeeper, you don't necessarily want to pick France out of the hat. but it does mean you're going to have a busy old game. So we're
And
hoping that that's
yeah,
what's going to happen. And
okay.
and good on him, Jakob. He's a very, very good keeper and nice guy. So good paddle player. Good
Yeah.
paddle player. So
Yeah,
all good.
that's an interesting angle. I mean, I think that's an angle that we're probably going to cover at some point on hooligan-sports.com, because I didn't do the promo before. I'll sneak it in now. Like, follow, subscribe, come. Nick writes for us, as I also do. That actually could be a good story, is the players who might have experienced the most, the highest increase in their transfer value. I actually pulled transfer values of all players. I have that in a database. I can now go and check, see if anybody actually experienced any major increases.
Well, there will be. There's always
should be.
2 or 3 in every World Cup. We might not have seen it yet. It might come later on in the competition. But certainly there'll be some players who make a name for themselves. Always happens.
Okay. Well, that seems reasonable. Any other big surprises out of the group stage that we have failed to mention before we start getting into maybe some hypothetical discussions on round of 32?
I think what's perhaps impressed me, and it has been a bit of a surprise, is the 3 host nations. I expected Mexico to do well, but they have absolutely taken the whole thing by storm. 3 wins out of 3, no goals conceded, looking the business. They are looking the business, and nobody, and this might include England, in the round of 16, should England beat DR Congo and should Mexico beat Ecuador. This will mean England going to the Azteca and however many miles it is up in the sky. And it's an impregnable place to go. It's a very, very difficult place to go because it's at such high altitude. And I think the fan base, they have absolute fanatical fans, make it a very difficult proposition. So Mexico, I think, have done really, really well. The USA have surprised me. I'm going to say that. They have surprised me in how well they did. And I hope you'll get a much better sense of this than I have, but I hope the country's swinging behind them now. I hope the country's
I believe
getting
they
involved.
are. Absolutely. I mean, if there's one thing about the United States, it's, boy, do we love a winner. And so, I think in some cases that shock loss to Türkiye with that last second goal, in a way, might have an additive effect by galvanizing people to suddenly rally behind them. I'm hoping.
Well, they've got a very, very, very winnable game against Bosnia in the next
They
round.
do.
In the first
I'm a little nervous about Bosnia, I'll be honest with you. I think Bosnia represents a particularly slippery banana peel, so to speak. I think they are, because of their mental resilience as a team, they are 100% unified, a true sort of mind over matter type of scenario. And then there's this young kid, Erman Mamic, who has this habit of coming on and scoring bangers in the last few minutes. And that makes me very nervous, considering that the U.S. has struggled in second halves. Over all 3 games, their second halves have been generally fairly poor. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to take a slightly different stance on that. I just think Bosnia aren't very good. It's as simple as that. I just don't think they're a very good side. They didn't have a particularly impressive qualifying campaign. They got there. They've not had a particularly interesting group stage in a fairly benign group of Switzerland, Canada, and Qatar. They've won 1, drawn 1, and lost 1. I just don't think they're a very good side. And if the USA team of the first couple of games turn up, I would expect them to beat Bosnia quite comfortably.
All right. Well, let's hope that happens.
Yes, let's hope. Yeah, indeed, let's hope it happens. I am a great believer in host nations having strong World Cups. I think it always helps. And to that point, Canada getting through, finishing in second spot in their group, I think is a great achievement.
It is. I really wish they had managed to beat Switzerland. Unfortunately, they woke up too late. They tried to skate around it, and it didn't work. It didn't work for them. And by the time they realized, oh crap, they were shocked by that first goal. Then that second goal snuck in, and then it seemed like they woke up and tried to play. And they did a good job. And they nearly had it, but they couldn't quite get it over the line. All the same, for a nation that has never won a game or ever qualified for a knockout round, they did both. That was good. If they had beaten Switzerland, they would have been able to play at home the next 2 matches, and that would have been huge.
Yes.
They
Yeah,
don't get that,
that does. Yeah.
but they
No,
do have at least a decent. Again, I think they also have a winnable game.
I think they've got a very winnable game.
Absolutely, yes.
Arguably, South Africa and Bosnia are the two weakest teams left in it.
True. Other
They
than
are.
Cape Verde, and not for
No, I would
not for lack of heart, but you know.
No, I would put them above South Africa. I don't
Okay.
understand how South Africa managed to squeeze into second place, having been terrible in their first two games, scabbed a 1-0 in their last game, and suddenly they've gone from bottom to second and automatic qualification. They're not.
Neither can the South Korean president, because he ordered an inquest. So there you go. Follow the money, Nick. Follow the money. I swear to God, he's got a lot of rand suddenly popping into his account.
They had a poor AFCON, South Africa, and hopes were not high for this World Cup.
Yeah.
I think it's a great draw for Canada. You're right. It would have been much better if they're playing in Toronto. Of course it would. They're playing in LA, but they'll still have a big backing. They'll have a big backing. I'd like to see, and it's a close game. It's probably the poorest fixture or the weakest fixture out of all of the round of 32.
Yeah.
But I hope Canada win.
I hope they do too. And by the way, it's really easy to fly from Canada to Los Angeles. Lots of dailies, ladies and gentlemen. Go and fill SoFi.
You haven't got long though, because it's in about.
But I know the kickoff
an hour and 10 minutes.
The kickoff is short. The kickoff is very tight.
But you better get your skates on.
Yeah, maybe from Vancouver if you take a supersonic, but it's not gonna. But yeah, I think you'll see. A good turnout there for that country, and I hope that they do. I hope that they perform well. What other? Speaking for myself, the one matchup that I am extremely excited for is Netherlands-Morocco in round of 32. That's a quarterfinal level match happening right now.
Well, I totally agree with you, by the way, as is Brazil versus Japan. I think that's an absolute cracker.
I think that's also a good one, yeah.
Those two are the standout games in the draw, without a shadow of a doubt. I wouldn't want to call either. I've got a sneaky feeling that Japan will beat Brazil. I've been unimpressed with Brazil so far. They haven't looked really anything out of the ordinary. I don't like their two-man midfield. And Japan will run and run and run and run. And Casemiro and Guimaraes in there are going to have a tough time of it, I think. Netherlands are a team that nobody over this side of the water have been talking about in the run-up. Everybody's been focusing on Spain, on France, on England, to a slightly lesser extent. People have been talking about Germany, but not in a particularly good way. Mm-hmm. Nobody's really touched on the Netherlands, but they have started the tournament really well.
Absolutely.
And, Key, as we touched on it before, Key is having a good goal scorer, and Brian Brobby, the Sunderland striker, has really found his feet. They look a good outfit, but Morocco are a really good side. 8th in the world for a reason, and they're getting stronger, I think, through the group stages. And it's the sort of game that will finish 2-2 and go to penalties. It's got that feel about it. I wouldn't. And you couldn't pick one.
I fear you're right, and that does not bode well for the Netherlands, because traditionally they're not strong on they're surprisingly not strong on the kicks from the mark. Right? They do okay. They're not terrible at it, but it's not their strong suit. They're better suited, and they really need to win in regulation. Or in extra time, as they've done upon many occasions. It is a shame that one of the two strongest teams has to be knocked out in this term, but we'll all be the beneficiaries, I think, of a really cracking match, right? And
yes,
and I agree with you with Japan, because here's the funny thing about Japan is if you look at them and you study their stats, part of what makes them successful is that they make all the other teams worse. They are incredible at keeping people outside of their attacking third. That's what, you look at stats like touches in opposition box, you look at shots. When you play Japan, everything goes down. They are always below what those average teams are. So if they can do that, they can achieve. And as you said, the runs, when Japan makes those darting quick runs and those passes, they can carve through anybody. And that Brazilian line, especially with Casemiro and some of that age, is not going to be fast enough to keep up with them.
No. I mean, you look at the centre halves at Marquinhos and Gabriel, and you go, well, arguably You can make a case for them being the best centre-half pairing in the world. But they don't look that resilient. The defence as a whole don't look that resilient to me.
Sure.
So if Japan can get at them, and I think that the key will be winning the midfield, and if they can get at them, they've got a real chance. And
I think Japan can win that midfield. Absolutely.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yes.
Because they've got the legs. They've got the legs on Casemiro, and they've got the legs on Guimaraes. Those two don't like playing without the ball. They're fine with the ball. They can, if they're given time and space to play, they're excellent players. But they don't like it. I mean, look at what Morocco did to them in the first half hour of that opening game. They absolutely swamped them.
Yeah.
It was arguably the best sort of what I'll call individual performance by a team, that first half hour of the game against Brazil by Morocco that we've seen so far. It was unbelievable. And Brazil were very lucky not to find themselves 3 or 4 down.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Within half an hour of the opening game of the World Cup. So I think if you're Japan, you'll look at what Morocco did and how they took the game to them and go, yeah, well, we can do that. We can do that because we've got the legs in our team to be able to do it.
True. One team that we have not mentioned yet, but I think would be in my candidate of one of the worst teams to advance, and that is Paraguay, who get to play against the Germans in a match what I would almost deem a very meh match. Except I do think that you should if the German team from the first 2 games shows up, should handily defeat Paraguay, but you never know. This World Cup has been throwing all kinds of curveballs.
Correct, yeah. No, it has. The only interesting thing about Paraguay is the Miguel Almiron sending off for saying something behind. I mean, I often wonder how stupid football players are, because we all know, the whole world knows that the IFAB have brought in these rules with very good reason, by the way, with very good reason, that the referee has at his discretion the power now to send a player off if he's covering his mouth and talking. And why then would you do it? Because we all know that when a new rule is brought in, referees are all over it. And then generally they just forget about it, and then you can kind of do what you want after a few weeks. But in the opening games of the competition, particularly, they're going to be looking out for this. And we don't know what Almiron said. It doesn't really matter. But then when he produces a red card with great flourish, I must say, it's a great clip if you've seen it. He produces it with huge gusto. That's all I can say. And Almiron's like, what? Hey? And I sometimes wonder, and this is a genuine wonder, because I referee and you referee, and I'm quite sort of staggered sometimes at the amount that the coaches and the players who just don't know the rules, don't know the laws of the game. And I wonder if even at this level, nobody's told Paraguay or Almiron they can't do that anymore, mate. You can't do that.
No, but they do. See, that's the thing. They do. But for every team is assigned a referee liaison whose responsibility is to educate all the players on any of the new changes coming into a tournament. They've told them. They know. Were they listening? That's a different story. You can be in the room, but not paying attention. Obviously, Almiron was distracted either by his phone or by something else, so didn't hear what was being said.
Yeah,
but there really is no excuse for this.
No. What I don't know, and you may be able to tell me this, is because it's a new rule. What is the ban? Is it 1 game or 3?
I think it's just 1 game.
I presume it's one,
because if you notice all the red cards. So, for example, Sitol, who received the red card in South Africa for the Dogzo, right, against Mexico. He was available for the 3rd game. So the ban is you get thrown out of the game you're in +1, and that's it. Unless it's deemed to be violent conduct.
Well, violent conduct or
that's a different
serious
story.
Foul play. Yeah, serious foul play as well.
So I think so Almiron should be available.
He'll be available. No, he will be available because he missed the last game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he'll be available for the Germany game. Yeah, but you're right. I would expect Germany to win that fairly comfortably.
Yeah, and there was an interesting incident also during the Colombia-Paraguay game when the camera was on James Rodriguez and Ronaldo in the tunnel. James covered his mouth and spoke to Ronaldo. And the commentator made a special point and said he actually can't get a red card then because they're not on the field. The game is in right? The game is technically suspended at that time. It is not an active play. I'm not entirely sure that's true.
No, I don't think that's true. No, I don't think it's true.
I think
The
he
referee
still could have gotten a red card for that.
He could have done, because consider this: if two players have a punch up in the tunnel,
yeah, it's still considered part of the game.
We see managers and players getting booked and sent off after the final whistle.
Right.
So I disagree with that, and we're taught as referees, aren't we, that you are in charge literally from the minute you arrive to the minute you leave. So anything that happens when you get, from the time you get out of your car and back in your car, pretty much, you're in control of. So no, I think I disagree with that, and I'm surprised that this has not been brought to somebody else's attention.
I think the only reason why it would not, but this is a dangerously slippery slope for the law, is that the two were obviously being very camaraderie. They were all hands around, it was all done in. But still, James should know. Yes. He should also know. Don't do that. Listen, there's nothing that you need to say to Ronaldo that needs to be hidden, people. Right?
And no, correct. But it's one of those where they brought the law in for something very, very different, for a very different.
Of course
reason.
they did. Yes,
and they
for
probably
good
didn't
reason.
think about. Well, they probably didn't think about. Well, what happens if two players who are good mates are wandering down the tunnel and the game's not going on, and
they just want to have a laugh? And
they probably didn't even think about it. And to be fair, quite rightly, I would not want to see James Rodriguez sent off.
No, of course not. No, I wouldn't either. Not to mention the fact that you'd infuriate the entire nation of Colombia and they'd go to war with Switzerland. No, nobody wants
to do that.
Nobody wants
that. No referee is that brave.
No, that is very, very true. Well, on that happy note, at least, Nick Britten, thank you so much for coming and joining us and chatting about the beautiful game, as well as the Road to World Cup 26. Please go listen to them, because that is a fantastic podcast. So.
Well, no, that's very kind. We've got a new episode. I recorded it about 2 hours ago, so it'll be out tonight at some
stage. That man, Nick is not only is he wise and erudite, he has stamina too, ladies and gentlemen. So,
and you can take that any way you want. Thank you very much.
There you go. So once again, hooligan-soccer.com. Please come, follow, like, subscribe. We love feedback. Please give us feedback, and let's hear it for a fantastic round of 32 coming up.
It will be. It will be.
Right.
I think it's going to be there's some great games to come.
All right. Thank you and good night. Peace.